The autumn sun hung low in the sky, painting the neighborhood in warm, golden hues as Anna turned onto her street. She glanced at David, her lover, seated beside her in the passenger seat. His easy grin and relaxed demeanor calmed the jittery energy running through her. Tonight felt like freedom, a stolen moment for just the two of them. As they pulled into the driveway, Anna turned to David with a sly smile. "Philip took the kids to his parents' place this morning. They'll be gone for 2 days. We have the whole house to ourselves." David chuckled softly, leaning closer. Finally, he said, "Feels like we've been waiting forever for a night like this." Anna's hand lingered on the doorknob as they entered the house. She called out, her voice echoing through the quiet halls. "Kids? Philip?" Silence greeted her. A satisfied smile crossed her lips as she turned to David. "Empty, just as it should be." David walked in, taking in the cozy living room and the faint scent of lavender air freshener. He dropped his bag near the door, his eyes meeting Anna's. "This is going to be the best night we've had in a long time," he said, wrapping an arm around her waist. "No interruptions." Anna laughed softly, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "Let me just double-check. You never know with Philip. He forgets things all the time." She grabbed her phone, dialing Philip's number as she moved through the house. After a few rings, his voicemail picked up. "No answer," she said, dropping the phone onto the counter with a shrug. "He's probably busy wrangling the kids." She turned to David with a wide smile. "It's just us now. Let's enjoy it." David walked toward the kitchen, plopping down on the chair. "I got to hand it to you, Anna. You really pulled this off. I mean, this morning I was worried we'd be stuck with just another rushed coffee date." Anna was about to respond when something caught her eye. A blanket, crumpled and thrown over the edge of the sofa, stood out against the otherwise tidy space. Her brow furrowed. "That's strange," she muttered, moving closer. "What is it?" David asked, sitting up straighter. Anna bent down, touching the blanket. Her voice was tinged with confusion. "Philip usually folds everything before he leaves. Why would this?" Before she could finish, the blanket moved. A sharp gasp escaped her lips as Philip, her husband, sat up from the sofa. His eyes burned with quiet fury as he stared at the two of them. "Surprise," Philip said, his tone icy. Anna stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth. "Philip," she stammered. What are you doing here? You were supposed to be with your parents." Philip stood, his presence imposing, his expression dark. "Clearly, I had other plans," he said evenly, his gaze shifting between Anna and David. "Care to explain what you're doing here with man, Anna?" Anna's pulse raced as Philip's glare pinned her to the spot. She forced herself to stand tall, smoothing her dress nervously. "Philip," she began, her voice wavering but trying for calm. "This isn't what it looks like. David and I are just friends." Philip's eyebrows shot up. He folded his arms across his chest, his lips pressing into a thin, disbelieving line. "Friends," he repeated slowly, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Yes," Anna said quickly, glancing at David for support. "I mean, I invited him over for coffee or tea to catch up, that's all." David, perched uneasily on chair, gave a quick nod, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "Yeah, that's right," he chimed in, his voice shaky. "I was just stopping by, for half an hour or so. Nothing more than that." Philip didn't move. His eyes flickered between the two of them, his expression a mix of fury and cold calculation. "Coffee, chatting," he said, his voice rising slightly. "Really? Because when you walked in, Anna, I distinctly heard you tell your friend here that it was just the two of you tonight. No interruptions. That you'd waited forever for this." Anna froze, her mouth opening and closing as she scrambled for a response. She let out a nervous laugh, her voice trembling. "Oh, that was just a joke. Right, David? Just joking around." David nodded vigorously, trying to muster some confidence. "Exactly. We worked together for years. We always made jokes like that. It's just harmless humor." Philip's expression darkened further, the room seeming to shrink under his looming presence. "Harmless humor," he repeated, his voice cutting through the tense air. "You're both pathetic liars." Anna felt the weight of Philip's anger like a physical force. Her knees wobbled as she reached for the back of a chair to steady herself. "Philip, please, shut your mouth," Philip snapped, his voice low but crackling with fury. He strode across the room, his movements sharp and deliberate, and opened the cabinet by the mantel. From it, he pulled a small wooden box, its smooth surface gleaming faintly in the dim light. Anna's stomach churned. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Philip ignored her, opening the box and revealing the pair of wedding rings nestled inside. He set the box on the table, then reached into his back pocket and pulled out a pair of pliers. The metallic gleam caught the light as he turned them over in his hand. Anna gasped, stepping toward him. "Philip, stop. Don't do this." Philip's glare stopped her mid-step. "I said shut your mouth," he growled. David sat frozen, his face pale, his hands gripping his knees. "Philip, let's just calm down." Philip silenced him with a single icy look. Without another word, he picked up the first ring, Anna's, and placed it between the jaws of the pliers. His hand clenched, and with a sharp snap, the gold band bent and twisted. Anna cried out, her hand flying to her mouth as she watched him drop the mangled ring into the trash can by the table. "Philip, please," she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "That's our what?" Philip interrupted, his voice cold. "Our bond? Our vows? Don't make me laugh, Anna. You already broke them." He grabbed the second ring, his own, and repeated the process. The sound of the metal bending echoed harshly in the room. When it was done, he tossed it into the trash can with the first, the finality of the gesture sinking like a stone in the heavy silence. Anna's tears spilled over as she stared at the destroyed remnants of their marriage. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. Philip's face was a mask of fury and betrayal. He leaned forward, his voice cutting through her sobs. "Because you already threw it all away," he spat. "I'm just finishing the job. Before you find out what happens next, please subscribe to the channel." Philip straightened, his eyes boring into Anna and David with a piercing intensity. His voice was calm, but the undercurrent of anger was unmistakable as he said, "Get out of my house, both of you, right now." Anna froze for a moment, her face contorting in disbelief. Then the fury erupted like a dam breaking. "You can't kick me out of my house," she screamed, her voice shrill. "I have just as much right to be here as you do." David raised his hands, palms outward, trying to defuse the situation. "Philip, let's not make this worse," he said cautiously. "We're all upset, maybe we should just talk this out." But Philip wasn't buying it. His jaw tightened as he stared at them both. "Talk," he repeated, his voice rising. "Anna, you brought a lover into my home, into my bedroom, and now you think we're going to sit down and have a nice chat. You must be out of your mind." "I said we're not lovers," Anna shouted back, stepping closer to Philip, her hands clenched into fists. "But you're so desperate to believe it? Fine, let's make your little fantasy come true." Her voice rose to a fever pitch. "Right here, right now, David and I will give you a masterclass in sex." David's face went pale, he grabbed his head, his voice trembling. "Anna, stop, you're going too far." "Don't calm me down, David," Anna shot back, her rage turning toward him briefly. "Look at this lunatic, my so-called husband, standing there with his stupid pliers and his big dramatic act. Does he think he's some tribal chief, a medieval feudal lord who gets to call all the shots?" She whirled back toward Philip, her face flushed with rage. "No, Philip, I live here too, and you don't get to control me, you don't get to decide who I see, what I do, or where I go." Philip's expression was cold, calculating, as if he were restraining himself with every fiber of his being. "Anna," he said, his tone like ice, "you're talking complete nonsense now. I'm warning you, for the third and final time, get the hell out of my house and don't let me see you for miles." He moved deliberately to the closet by the door and retrieved a baseball bat. The faint scrape of wood against the frame was the only sound in the room as he turned back toward them, gripping it firmly in one hand. He pointed it at the door, his voice firm and unyielding. "Leave now on good terms. Tomorrow, Anna, you'll receive divorce papers. Pray to God you get off easy." David recoiled at the sight of the bat, his courage crumbling. "Anna, let's go," he said urgently, pulling at her arm. "This isn't worth it." But Anna wasn't done. The mention of divorce seemed to jolt her from her fury into a cold, simmering defiance. Her eyes narrowed and her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "You'll answer for this, Philip," she hissed. "You'll answer in court for the threats, for the blackmail, for everything. I won't let this go." Philip didn't flinch. He simply gestured toward the door with the bat. "Now." David finally managed to pull Anna toward the door, his voice low and pleading. "Come on, Anna, let's just go." Anna let herself be dragged out, but not without firing one last glare over her shoulder. "You'll regret this," she spat. The door slammed shut behind them, the sound reverberating through the house like the final nail in the coffin of their marriage. Anna and David drove in silence, the tension in the car thick enough to cut. Eventually they parked at a dimly lit bar, the neon signs casting garish reflections on the windshield. Inside they ordered drinks, the heavy weight of the evening settling over them. "I can't believe him," Anna fumed, gripping her glass tightly. "Who does he think he is, threatening me like that? He has no right." David rubbed his temples, his drink untouched. "Anna, maybe we should take a step back. Tonight got way out of hand." She slammed her glass down, glaring at him. "You're taking his side now, after everything he did?" "I'm not taking anyone's side," David said, his voice weary. "I just think we need to be smart about this. Philip is angry and he's serious about the divorce. If this goes to court, you need to be prepared." Anna's anger wavered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. "You really think he'll follow through?" David nodded solemnly. "Yeah, and if he does, we need a plan." Anna leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. Divorce wasn't part of the plan, but now the wheels of a bitter battle were already in motion, and this was just the beginning. Anna swirled the amber liquid in her glass, her mind racing as she processed the night's events. Across the table, David leaned in, his expression shifting from cautious concern to quiet calculation. He took a deep breath before speaking, his voice soft yet firm. "Anna, you deserve better than this," he said, watching her closely. "Philip humiliated you tonight. He showed no respect for you, for your relationship, for everything you've given him." Anna set her glass down with a sharp clink, her jaw tightening. "You're damn right I deserve better," she snapped, "but he's not getting away with this. I'll make sure of it." David nodded, his demeanor calm as he began to outline his thoughts. "If he's serious about this divorce, you need to be ready. Philip's anger will make him reckless. He'll try to cut you off from the house, the money, and the kids, but you don't have to let that happen. You've done so much for him, the courts will see that." Anna's eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" David leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "I'm saying you should fight back, hard, get a lawyer, a good one. Show the court how much you've invested in this marriage. Philip's financial success, you were part of that. If you play your cards right, you can walk away with the house, the assets, and custody of the kids." Anna tilted her head, considering his words. "Custody? You think I could win that?" David's lips curved into a faint smile. "Of course, you're the nurturing parent. Philip's anger issues will work against him in court. Tonight proves that. Any judge will see you're the stable one." Her gaze hardened, a spark of determination igniting in her eyes. "And you think I should go for it all? The house, the money?" David shrugged, his voice taking on a soothing tone. "Why not? You deserve it. Besides," he added, his expression softening, "if you're free of Philip and secure financially, you can finally live the life you deserve. You wouldn't have to rely on anyone." The implication hung in the air, unspoken but clear. Anna glanced at him, her lips curling into a small bitter smile. "You mean I wouldn't have to rely on Philip?" David hesitated, then nodded. "Exactly." Anna leaned back, a humorless laugh escaping her. "You've really thought this through, haven't you?" David spread his hands. "I just want you to be happy, Anna. You've given so much to a man who doesn't appreciate you. Now it's time to look out for yourself." Anna studied him for a long moment, then drained the rest of her drink in one swift motion. "Fine," she said. "I'll do it. I'll teach him a lesson he'll never forget." In the morning, Anna's phone buzzed. She answered briskly, her tone guarded. "This is Jack Forrester, Philip's attorney," a professional voice announced. "Philip has instructed me to deliver the divorce papers. Where would you prefer to meet?" Anna's heart clenched, but she forced her voice to remain steady. "Let's meet at the cafe on Main Street this afternoon." At 1 o'clock, Anna arrived at the cafe and found Forrester waiting. He handed her a thick envelope, his demeanor cold and detached. "These outline my client's terms," he said. Anna skimmed the papers quickly, her anger growing. Philip wanted the house, most of their assets, and custody of the children. She snapped the envelope shut and glared at the lawyer. "Tell your client he's delusional if he thinks this will end in his favor," she said before leaving abruptly. Back at David's cramped apartment, Anna tossed the papers onto the table. She paced, her frustration mounting. "He wants everything," she fumed. David leaned against the counter, calm and deliberate. "Then you fight back, hard, gather evidence, everything you've done for that man and this marriage. He wants a battle? Give him one." In the days following the meeting with Philip's lawyer, Anna worked tirelessly to prepare her case. With David by her side, they scoured the city for a high-profile divorce attorney. They eventually settled on Rachel Carter, a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer with a reputation for fighting hard for her clients. Rachel listened intently as Anna painted a picture of Philip as an angry, controlling husband. "He's aggressive," Anna insisted, "unpredictable. He even threatened me with a baseball bat." Rachel nodded, making notes. "We'll focus on his behavior and present you as the responsible, nurturing parent. Custody of the children will be a cornerstone of our argument." Meanwhile, David stayed in the background, quietly savoring his role in Anna's life. Though outwardly supportive, his thoughts often wandered to a future where Anna, victorious and wealthy, would be completely his. He imagined the vacations, the luxurious home they could share, and the freedom that Philip's money could bring. David knew he had to keep Anna focused on the fight, but his true motivations were always just beneath the surface. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Anna and Philip faced off for the first time. Anna sat with Rachel by her side, her face composed, but her nerves frayed. Across the room, Philip was calm and focused, his lawyer Jack Forrester exuding quiet confidence. Anna's testimony painted Philip as a domineering, unstable husband. She described the night he confronted her and David, emphasizing the baseball bat and claiming she feared for her safety. "I've given everything to this marriage," Anna said, her voice trembling with emotion. But Philip's aggression and need for control made it impossible to continue. Rachel reinforced Anna's narrative, highlighting her role as a mother and a contributing partner. "My client supported her husband emotionally, and now he wants to strip her of everything. We won't let that happen." When it was Forrester's turn, he moved with precision, dismantling Anna's case piece by piece. First, he presented evidence of Anna's infidelity, photos, text messages, and witness statements that left no doubt about her relationship with David. "The narrative that my client is an angry, controlling husband falls apart when we consider the facts," Forrester said, addressing the court. Mrs. Anna was unfaithful, bringing her lover into their marital home. These actions speak volumes about her respect, or lack thereof, for this marriage. Next, Forrester unveiled a detailed analysis of the couple's finances. Mrs. Anna claims to have supported the marriage. However, records show that she spent thousands of dollars on Mr. David, including gifts, dinners, and even rent for his apartment. Forrester then turned to Philip's character. He read glowing testimonials from Philip's colleagues, friends, and neighbors, all describing him as a calm, reliable, and devoted husband and father. "Philip Trenton is a man of integrity," Forrester continued. Despite his wife's betrayal, he didn't freeze their joint accounts, ensuring that Mrs. Anna could retain legal representation. He has approached this situation with restraint and fairness, even under the most trying circumstances. The courtroom was silent as Forrester delivered his closing statement. "This is not a man who is aggressive or controlling. This is a man who has been wronged and is simply fighting to protect his children and secure what is rightfully his." As the trial progressed, it became clear that Forrester's methodical approach was swaying the court. Anna's accusations began to crumble under the weight of the evidence, leaving her increasingly flustered. David, seated quietly in the back of the courtroom, felt his dreams of an easy, wealthy life slipping away. He watched helplessly as Philip's case grew stronger, his carefully constructed future with Anna unraveling with each revelation. The courtroom felt stifling as the trial continued. Anna's composed exterior began to crack. Anna's lawyer, Rachel Carter, turned to her during a break, her voice low and sharp. "Why didn't you warn me that your husband had such dirt on you? You said he only saw you in the house once, right? I could have prepared for this. I didn't think he knew." Anna stammered, her face pale. "I didn't think it would come up." "Well, it has," Rachel replied curtly, flipping through her notes, "and it's derailing everything." Jack Forrester, Philip's lawyer, wasn't finished. He pressed further, subtly casting doubt on Anna's motivations. "Your Honor," Forrester said smoothly, "it's worth considering the financial situation of Mrs. Anna's companion, Mr. David. By all accounts, he has no regular income and relies heavily on Mrs. Anna's support. It raises the question, could their relationship be more about financial gain than genuine affection? Is their goal to claim the bulk of the family's assets to fund their personal interests, neglecting the needs of the children?" The judge's expression remained unreadable, but Anna could feel the tide turning against her. After weeks of grueling testimony and arguments, the judge finally delivered the ruling. Having reviewed the evidence, the judge began, "It is clear that Mr. Philip has demonstrated his commitment to his children and the stability of the family home. Therefore, primary custody of the children will be awarded to Mr. Philip, along with the family residence." Anna felt her heart sink. She barely registered the rest of the judgment until the judge addressed her directly. "Mrs. Anna will retain her personal vehicle, a portion of the shared financial assets, and some items from the marital home. While this is a smaller share of the overall estate, it is a fair allocation considering the circumstances." Rachel's professionalism had salvaged what she could, but Anna knew the outcome was a crushing blow. Philip left the courtroom feeling triumphant. His calm demeanor belied the satisfaction bubbling within him. The ruling had gone as he'd hoped, ensuring stability for his children and reaffirming his integrity. Anna and David, meanwhile, left the courthouse in stunned silence. Back at David's apartment, the gravity of the loss began to sink in. "This wasn't supposed to happen," Anna muttered, staring blankly at the floor. David, equally disheartened, paced the small living room. "We'll figure something out," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. Anna sighed, her gaze hardening. But deep down she knew that Philip had won and the life she once controlled had slipped firmly out of her grasp. Anna's life after the trial settled into a bleak rhythm. She moved into David's cramped apartment permanently, her dreams of wealth and comfort reduced to a harsh reality. The court granted her visitation rights, and every weekend she would visit her children. Philip, true to his nature, did not stand in her way. He ensured the children were ready when Anna came, but he avoided her entirely, speaking only when necessary. The cordial yet distant arrangement deepened Anna's sense of loss. Her visits with the children were bittersweet. She cherished the hours spent with them but felt the growing divide in their lives. Philip's steady presence had given them stability, while Anna was a visitor in their world. David, meanwhile, began to show cracks in his facade. Anna noticed his frequent absences and the growing stack of unpaid bills on the counter. One day she checked her bank account and froze in shock. Her remaining money was gone. Confronting David that evening, she found him jittery and defensive. "Where's my money?" she demanded, her voice trembling with rage. David avoided her gaze, muttering excuses. Finally, he admitted the truth. He had gambled it all away. "I was going to win it back," he said weakly, his eyes darting around the room. I got unlucky." For Anna, it was the final blow. Her chest tightened as she realized she had bet everything on a man who couldn't even manage his own life. When David realized she wasn't going to forgive him, he disappeared overnight, leaving behind nothing but a hastily scribbled apology note. Anna was left alone, Her savings gone and her trust shattered. The weight of her decisions finally crushed Anna. She cried for days, with no one left to rely on, threw herself into work. Her days were spent covering bills and her weekends became her only solace, seeing the children who remained her one connection to the life she had destroyed. One Sunday, as Anna dropped the children off at Philip's house, she lingered at the door. He opened it, his expression neutral but polite. "Philip," she said softly, her voice trembling. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I know I ruined so much and I've paid for it every day since." Philip looked at her for a long moment, his face unreadable. There was pity in his eyes, but also a firm resolve. "I've forgiven you, Anna," he said finally, his voice calm. "But we can't go back. Too much has happened. It's better this way, for me and for the kids." Anna nodded slowly, tears streaming down her cheeks. She had hoped for a second chance, but deep down, she knew she didn't deserve it. In the end, all Anna could do was live with the consequences, one day at a time.